Hello, Jim. How are you doing? Happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm doing fantastic. How about yourself?
Pretty good. Excited to hear more from you. I know for our audience, it will be an eye opener to get to know lots of things, interesting topics that probably, as much as some of us, and for that I mean myself, before talking to you, I wasn't really aware of how am I doing things in the right way proactively. Let's say just from a fitness standpoint, I'm doing my exercise, but there's other things that will really come into play for my overall wellness, longevity. So having
Yeah,
said that, I'll pass on the microphone so you can introduce yourself, give us a bit of your background and anything
sure.
that you feel will be good for the audience to hear from you.
All right. So again, my name is Jim Nance. I'm the co-founder of Endless Vitality. We're a licensed outpatient treatment center with the state of Arizona. My personal background is in finance. So I was a mortgage banker for 25 years. I started this clinic about 8 years ago with a doctor and my business partner, Steve. Um, we got into the space doing hormone replacement therapy primarily. And then we saw the emergence of GLP-1s, which are glucagon-like peptides. So it's like a insulin release that causes your body to process the sugar out of your bloodstream before it turns to fat, and also clicks off a hunger switch. So you've probably heard of semaglutide, which is generic Wegovy, or tirzepatide, which is generic Zepbound. Both of those work really well. In fact, they're the most widely prescribed and used pharmaceutical in the history of medicine. So they've, more people have taken it and had great results than any other medication known to man. Um, so they've been on a list where anybody can compound those up until a couple of months ago, and now they're not on that shortage list anymore. So a lot of people have entered and exited the market on those. Um, Now, what you're seeing is pharmacies are now compounding those with glycine and B12 to kind of, um, I don't say skirt around the patent, but to offer it a different variant of the medication while still honoring the patent. But we've had hundreds of people on these medications, had great results. Um, they're great for the right person. They're probably overused and abused by some. Um, and giving the proper direction with these medications is really imperative to getting the results you're looking for. So with these two specific peptides, if you don't add a protein supplement and some resistance training, they'll start to eat muscle as well as fat. So you're seeing a lot of people who are losing weight, but they may not be losing the weight they're looking for. So, like with us, we don't just prescribe the medication, we give them some nice direction on things they can do to amplify the benefits and stay away from the muscle wastage. Because what you see is if you lose a bunch of muscle and you're trying to lose weight, you come off the medication, you put that weight on, you don't have the muscle now, and you just get in this perpetual cycle and you become skinny fat, and nobody wants to be skinny fat. Everyone wants to be, kind of buff, I guess, or look a certain way. But so anyway, so those are two of the most widely used peptides. So then as we got into that peptide space, we saw that there were a lot of other peptides available to do a variety of other things depending on your needs. And my company has positioned itself as kind of the antithesis of the traditional, I call it the medical industrial complex, where doctors traditionally prescribe pharmaceuticals to mask symptoms. Primary care physicians don't always do the best job of educating people on the kind of the pillars of health, which are, diet, exercise, and recovery. Like when everyone came down with COVID, what they say, stay in your house, don't go around people. Probably the worst advice you could give somebody. If you're
Totally.
trying to be healthy, you should get out, get sunshine first thing in the morning, take a walk, you know, let your let your body breathe a little bit, get some cardiovascular activity in. But So what's happened is now we have this whole plethora of peptides that I've learned about on both a personal level as well as a clinical side of it that can help augment your health in a variety of different ways. And I'll give you another example. One that was just recently recategorized as a category 2 peptide, which means they don't understand it or the health benefits may not outweigh the downside. But the ironic part is it's actually naturally occurring in the gut, so your body makes it naturally. The problem is it can't be patented. So without a patent in place, the Johnson and Johnsons and Eli Lilly's of the world can't own it. They fund the FDA. So my personal opinion is a lot of these peptides they're trying to box them out so you'll take traditional pharmaceuticals. Now, BPC, what it does, it fares through your body, finds injury, creates a process called angiogenesis. So if you hurt your shoulder, you don't even have to inject in your shoulder. You inject in stomach fat, it fares through your body, finds injury, creates these new blood vessels, pushes out inflammation, and helps you heal faster. Now, these can be taken in conjunction with other peptides that are also in this list, called TB500 or thiamidobetasin 500. And that helps repair joints and muscles and pairs really well. So those two together, they call the Wolverine protocol, where you heal faster, it just helps your body recover faster. And they're great together for athletes who are trying to stave off surgery, for example. Another one that pairs really well with the BPC is Serarellan. Now that's FDA approved. Anybody can purchase it, but you do need to test your growth function prior. So an IGF-1 test. So what that does, it spikes your pituitary gland to make more human growth hormone. But paired with BPC, the BPC upregulates it or causes it the HGH to stick to your binders more effectively. So now you're getting help on both sides doing a similar thing. So the HGH or human growth hormone might help you recover, repair. It basically just grows, it's your growth hormone. So your body grows, but in that process, it repairs itself. So now you got the BPC working to repair your joints, tendons, whatever's hurting. And it also is upregulating the HGH produced by adding the Serarellan. So we have like 25 peptides we offer that do different things from cognitive function, recovery, repair, detoxification. Another great peptide, glutathione. Glutathione is your natural detoxification agent that your liver produces that just detoxifies your body. But when you take it, it gives your face like a glow. They call it the glutathione glow. So it pushes all the bad guys out and makes you a little prettier, gives you some color in your face. The stuff works great together. Have you ever taken any peptides yourself?
No, I have not, but obviously it's an eye opener. And just for the audience, if someone is wondering, well, the peptides are, and if
Right.
I'm wrong, if you want to elaborate, Jim, feel free. These are short chains of amino acids, right?
That's right.
So having said that, I've heard of peptides, and mainly when I was at some point during my educational years, and I was focusing more on a science type career that I didn't pursue at the end. I heard the terms, and maybe it wasn't as popular as now for like these overall uses to support our immune system, to help with hormones regulation, to repair
Right.
tissue, as you mentioned. I wasn't aware, but it's a wake up call for me because I've been doing, as I said, like I have the check. I work out every day. I eat clean, but then
Yeah.
there's always that point or that thing that you can always improve what you're doing and learn.
Right.
So no one needs for me. Okay, this is a takeaway that I need to work on
Yeah.
this specifically.
So what we encourage people to do is get blood work done or labs. So you would get a full female panel with tests. You get like 3 pages of lab. We look at primarily like your testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, um, hematocrit levels, hemoglobin levels, just to see whether or not your blood has too much iron in it. So if your hemoglobin levels are high, that means your blood is becoming too thick. One of the downsides of taking testosterone, for example, is it can thicken your blood, which can cause your heart to have to work harder. to push blood through it. But all you do is get blood. So, like with hormone replacement therapy, there are some negative side effects, but you can counteract pretty much all of them with medication and doing things like helping save somebody's life by giving blood. So, like if you were coming to my clinic, I'd say, hey, let's get panels. Those panels would come back to us. We'd get you a copy. We'd set up a telehealth call with our doctor who would go over them with you. He gives us a plan of care here at the facility. And then we come to you with an offering and say, hey, we can do this, this, and this, and price that out for you. And like for us with men, it's 200 a month, basically 200 every 4 weeks, which is their testosterone, estrogen blockers if they need them, and their future labs. So the continued follow up with the labs are important. So if we do anything with our patients, we like to monitor them regularly. And we also have a human health scale, which is like a DEXA scan scale. So it'll test your body fat, how many pounds of muscle you have, how many pounds of fat, where it's located, whether it's visceral or subcutaneous. Visceral being inside, which can impact your organs. Subcutaneous is like your stomach fat you see on the outside. But if you got a lot of fat on the outside, that means you got even more on the inside, which can cause your liver and kidneys and other organs not to function properly. So it's very important to have those levels checked, know where you're at, and then like for us, if I put you on semaglutide, for example, and you lost 20 pounds, it's great to know whether you lost muscle, fat, combination of the two, whatever the case may be, and then we can make adjustments to diet and resistance training, cardiovascular activity to try to push you in the right direction. And if you come back the second time, it'll run a report and say, you were 15% body fat last week, now you're 16. I'm gonna be like, what are you doing? Let's talk about it. And if it's coming down, I'm gonna give you an Atigirl. You think, nice job. Congratulations, you lost 2% body fat. Again, what are you doing? It sounds like it's effective. So we coach people as well as offer peptides. So again, with I think the pillars of health are diet, exercise, and recovery. So like a great routine is to go to bed at the same time every night. And when you get up, go get some sunlight, which resets your circadian rhythm. So then your body's used to going to bed at a certain time and getting up at a certain time, and it signals to your body that it's on track. And then another interesting supplement that we talk a lot about is creatine. So like, for example, do you take creatine at all?
Yes, that one I have my check. I do take.
Yeah, so creatine is going to at a 5 to 10 milligram dose will saturate your muscles, help volumize them, but also it can overflow into your brain. So they've done studies that you sleep 4 hours, take creatine, your brain works better than if you slept 8 hours and you didn't take creatine. How many people know that? So it's amazing for cognitive function. And that's a big one. You get older, your body starts to, it doesn't work quite as well. And it's just nice to know that there's supplementation to help keep your, for me, I'm 50 years old, so I look at myself like I'm an antique car. I can't just fill it full of nitrous oxide and keep my foot on the gas all the time, right? I gotta baby it a little bit. And peptides do that, and then giving blood's like giving your car an oil change. So it's the only time your body produces new blood is when it loses blood. And that new blood is produced with the right amount of iron in it. So that's what, dumping that blood gets rid of a lot of that iron, and then your body produces new blood with the proper hemoglobin levels. And now your body is functioning properly. So start off the day, get some sun, then preferably some exercise. Resistance training, very important, because as we get older, our body starts to lose muscle mass, and it becomes harder and harder to gain muscle mass. So it's important we put it on now while we're younger, so we maintain it as we get older. And then I think the other thing, the big one people miss is detoxifying their body. Like, do you have a detox routine personally? Do you do anything to detoxify your body?
No, not really. I tried doing fasting, the intermittent
Yeah,
fasting. but then you find, or I found, like, oh, this might be counterproductive for women if you're in that stage, getting into like the 40s mark or close to that. So I was like, maybe I'll pause and think if that's the best route for me, but
Right.
I'll let you speak to it.
Well, intermittent fasting is great because one, it causes autophagy, so you start to kill off the bad cells. So they have these, they call them zombie cells that are, they're like basically broken and they're just eating up your body's energy, or ATP, and that's what can turn into cancer. So, and if you do have some type of cancer, fasting can start to kill those cells off. Um, so I think it's great for anybody, but like, so one of the supplements I take is called Perfect Aminos. So Gary Brecka, you heard of Gary Brecka? He's a world
Hmm.
famous biohacker. So he has all these little routines that he encourages. But he also has a supplement line. So these perfect aminos are just amino acids that form protein in your body. So you can take it and you don't take in calories. So you don't break that intermittent fast, but you can still get the protein your body needs to function properly, to put on muscle. So I don't want to eat until later in the day personally. So I take the perfect aminos. I take the creatine with a handful of other supplements to start my day, knowing that I'm not going to eat for a while, but I'm also putting my body through a regimen in the morning that needs calories, it needs protein, and things like that. And what they also found is when you eat is just as important as what you eat. So if you start your day with carbohydrates or sugar, you'll get this insulin resistance. So then, your body just won't process the sugar out, and then you just start getting chubby. And a lot of Americans are pretty chubby. So starting off with a big cup of coffee filled with sugar isn't the best way to start your day. Feels good,
Totally.
but probably not the best thing for you. Unfortunately, a lot of things in this world are like that. Feels great, maybe not be the best thing for you, you know, because
That's great.
we cater to people's wants, not their needs,
Great
typically.
advice. Yes.
So the one
Yeah.
thing I'd say is if you can start your day with some exercise and then potentially hit the sauna. So the sauna mimics cardiovascular activity without actually doing it. I hate cardio. I'm 6'4", 250 pounds. I don't like running. If you see me running, you should run too. That means there's probably problems coming around the corner. Um, but yeah, if you go straight from, like, I'll do 15 to 25 minutes of cardio straight to the sauna, and the sauna is part of my detox routine. So then I'm getting that additional cardiovascular activity by being in the sauna. And then prior to that, another supplement I take is activated charcoal. Have you heard of that? Activated charcoal. So it binds the
Yes.
toxins in your stomach. So
Yes.
now when you're sweating more of the bad stuff out. And that's a big part of the detox thing, because if you're not detoxifying, you're loading toxicity. And we don't need that in our relationships. We don't need that in our body. That's probably one of the goals of an adult, is to not be in any type of toxic relationship, whether it be with your food or your lover or your parents or whatever the case may be, to avoid toxicity. So I take a big glass with the perfect aminos, the activated charcoal, and the creatine, and that's how I start my day. Then I go to the gym and I do the sauna, and by the time I come home, I'm already 2 or 3 hours into my day, and I've got my workout done, I've got my detox in. I feel pretty good.
Yeah,
So,
I'm sure, and you'll confirm, but your energy levels, the awareness you have, I'm
oh yeah,
sure it's way different as if you just
right,
woke up, had the sugary coffee, had no sunshine,
right, right,
probably just sit down and watch an episode of
right.
the newest um, trending show, right? And
Yep,
then dive into your day. I guess the results are totally the opposite. So it's
right.
great. It's an eye opener, and it's probably, for me, it feels like it's a compounding effect, right?
Oh
You
yeah,
do one thing, it's okay, and it will help you for your overall health or longevity or whatever,
yep,
however you want to name it. But then if you add the next thing, considering your workout, considering, as you say, this detox portion, one of the great insights that I got is for me thinking I'm working out, I'm trying to achieve goals of looking lean, having muscle, and then having the fasting portion is like, is it counterproductive? But then now you're saying like you have these amino acids that you can take, and then they will fuel your body with protein, but you're not really getting more of these toxins in your body or food per se, just for the sake of fueling your body. So that's like really great insights that I feel everyone will benefit from learning from. And then I also find the overall approach on your end, and from, I can tell the experience you had, like you are doing it, you're talking the talk, right? Or walking the walk. So you really have applied it to yourself. It's something that you have proven,
Right.
and that's a great approach. So it's really interesting, and I'll bet for anyone listening, there's something that they haven't done, or more than one thing, obviously.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you mentioned, and for me, maybe it's sometimes misinformation, or just certain things you have on your mind. You hear testosterone and you just think about men, right?
Right.
But having said that, within your website, or the approach you take, is like the TRT. That's the
Right.
acronym.
That's right.
Perfect. So that doesn't mean it's just meant for men, right?
No, because women with low testosterone find themselves moody, low libido, and major brain fog are probably the big ones, and having trouble sleeping at night. So if you can't recover, can't repair. If you have brain fog all the time, you're not going to perform your best at work. And if you have low libido, you may not have the best relationship with your lover. You get men and women who've been with the same person for 20 years, and it may not be as exciting as it once was, but you still want to do it. And for men, they can't perform if they don't have any testosterone, and women might have performance issues too in other ways. That they just don't want to, or I mean, you don't get everything flowing the right way. You know, and then you're like you're both sitting there and looking at each other like maybe next time. You know?
Yes. So it's good to know, right? Because sometimes
Yeah.
we might not have all the insight us of how big of a role hormones play in our bodies. And for men and women, they're changing. I guess like for women mostly because we go through many changes, but also for men, especially when we start aging.
Right.
And from the approach you're taking, it can support us throughout different stages, but also
Right.
proactively on that aging process and other things that will be. Will you custom tailor it for the goals someone has?
Well, you know what the optimal levels are.
Okay.
So, like if I had your panels and you had if your testosterone was super low, we would know approximately how much to give you to have your body perform optimally, and then we'll come back in 6 weeks, test you again after you go on and see how you feel, see how the panels look like, and we can make adjustments from treatment there, or we'll just leave you where you're at if we got it right the first time. But yeah, especially women, as you approach menopause, will stop. Your hormones will be get out of whack, you get hot flashes, have all these issues, and you can offset that with hormone replacement therapy, and that could be testosterone, estrogen, progesterone. For us, men are like working on old pickup trucks. It's pretty easy. There's only a few parts. Not electronics aren't too tough to deal with, but women are like sports cars. You've got 4 pages of labs, all these other things going on, and you know better than me. It's a
Yeah.
lot more challenging just to stay in front of. But we do both men and women. We're probably 80-20 men to women on the HRT side, but then on the weight loss side, it's probably 70-30 women to men, because it's a lot harder for women to put on muscle, to lose weight. And then if you're not educated on these other things we're talking about, like the diet, exercise, sleep, you can get stuck in a real rut. So if a woman doesn't have any testosterone, she can't put on muscle. It's just not going to happen. You can't lose weight. The fat will just stay there. And estrogen is found heavily in fat. So if you have elevated estrogen levels, it can have the same effect, and especially with men, they'll start to develop breasts. They won't, their sex drive will be off. They won't have the energy. And then the big one again is the brain fog. Your brain just doesn't work as well when your levels are off. So when you make those adjustments, you can see benefits on personal life, business life, a little bit of everything. And then after you get that piece of it together, then there's all these peptides that can plug in gaps. I'll give you another example. So as you get older, your body produces less energy, right? That's why, just you just don't have to drive. Well, NAD is the first pathway for your body to produce ATP or energy. So we become deficient. So by adding NAD+, you can kind of supercharge your cells, and your chromosomes have these telomeres on the end of them that shrink every time your cell replicates. So as that telomere shrinks, if it gets down to 0, it's not there anymore. You're dead. Your body can't reproduce cells and pass away. Now most people die of chronic illness, but you want to have your cells age the best as we can. So we try to look a little younger as we get older, right? When you're little, you want to be older. When you're old, you want to be younger. So like I said, I'm 50. I try to look closer to 40. And for me, like this
So you have the
diet
jet lag.
exercise protocols aren't optional, because I sit in front of, we've got, 500 active patients, give or take, right now. So if I sit in front of you and I look a certain way, it's like you show up in like I was talking to this guy in the sauna today, and I was just kind of saying a lot of the same things, and he was like, "Yeah, my trainer's like severely overweight," and I was like, how's this gonna work? you know, if you don't look
Totally.
the part, you can't play the role. So I have to look. I really have to look the part, because my business depends on it, and I take care of myself anyway. So, but then you've got NAD plus, and then methylene blue does the same thing. It's a dye they created in the 70s, and I don't know who the first crazy guy who took that stuff in and realized that it also helps with your mitochondrial function to produce more energy. But both do the same things. They work different pathways, so they do it in a different way, but both create more energy, which is amazing for repairing cells, your skin. So, for example, my business partner was in Mexico a couple months ago, dropped a bottle of champagne, it shatters, splits his foot. He's bleeding bad, right? So he wraps it up. They're like, "You need stitches?" He's like, "No, I'm gonna tough it out. I'm just gonna wrap it up." Well, takes this methylene blue, and literally within a day, it's closed up. And within 3 days, you can barely see the cut. Like, it really does help your body heal faster. So, both these medications are great for just about anybody, but especially if you're getting up in age and you're feeling like you've got this chronic fatigue where no matter what I eat, what I sleep, I just don't feel good. And that can help bring people back to a younger version of themselves. Yeah,
Impressive. So that was like the Wolverine. Uh,
yeah, there is a peptide combination called the Wolverine, which is TB 500 and BPC 157, but that does that as well. So as you can see, there's different ways to accomplish the same goals, and everyone's body's physiologically different. So, these peptides might work great for one person, but the next guy doesn't work as well. So you got alternative protocols that all kind of do the same thing in different ways. And this, having these options and the knowledge behind it to know what does what and when you can take it, what the expectations can be. So I've tried just about everything. It's a little easier for me. I just pull it off the shelf. You know what I mean? I'm qualified through my position for every peptide that we offer, but I can I can speak to it on a clinical level, but I also have the personal experience, which can be a lot more powerful. You know? So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thanks, Jim. So one of the things that I saw in your website is you offer these free virtual consultations. So I find this is great, right? Because someone can really get advice and put a plan in place, get the support they need. You're
Right.
based in Arizona, but from my understanding, you have a network throughout certain states in the U.S. where
Yep.
anyone interested would be able to reach out.
Yeah, we're fortunate enough to have a physician on staff who's got 48 states as an MD, 48 individual state licenses, so allows us to do telehealth all over the country, which is great. So we can have our consults via telehealth. We have a relationship with LabCorp, so we get great prices on these labs. So the female panel would probably cost you $1,200 if you went to LabCorp and bought them retail. We do $250 for the full labs and the consult with the physician. And the upfront consult is with yours truly. So I sit and talk to people and just get a background of what they're doing, how they feel, what they're trying to accomplish. Everyone's got something going on. Nobody walks into my office perfect and says, "You know what? I don't need anything. I feel great. Everything's working fine." Never happens. Everyone's got something. They want to be a little skinnier, a little bit more muscular, a little bit, brain work a little bit better. Want to repair from a wound or a shoulder, knee injury, whatever the case may be. So we help walk people through the process, give them their options, educate them a little bit. And, sometimes like HRT isn't the best fit for everybody. Your hormone levels might be right, but you still might be having issues. So there are peptides, or again, just about everything. So I'll give you a couple more examples. So um, the Serarellan I spoke of for HGH production does a really good job of um, helping burn fat and putting on muscle. But for whatever reason, Serarellan, which is like a sister, it's like a different flavor of the same ice cream, works better with women. And it works really well removing visceral fat off women. So if you're a female and you're looking to lose fat, that might be a great option. And two, it pairs up with DPC again really well because it'll help bind to the receptors better. And then there's CJC ipamorelin, which does basically the same thing, but it's slightly different and it does a better job building muscle. The other one burns fat, one builds muscle, and Serarellan being the middle guy does a pretty good job of both. So if you're looking for both, that might be a better fit. So those are great peptides for the right people. Um, and then there's also a couple for cognitive function, just straight up for your brain. So like epitalon will help your pineal gland release more melatonin when you sleep. So again, sleep being one of the pillars of health. So resetting your circadian rhythm, making sure you get up and get some sun, going to bed about the same time. Also, red lights will do that. So if you have red lights at home, more people are kind of catching wind of this, but red
Yeah.
lights will also help reduce melatonin. So if you take some time in front of red lights, the pinealon clears your pineal gland to make more melatonin, and this stuff works really well. So I'll give you an example. I got married last October, and I started taking this about 2 months after I had a TBI, had a brain injury. I'll get into that later, um, but I knew that this would help me sleep. I was having trouble sleeping, but it's kind of hard to know whether you got a good night's sleep, you didn't wake up or whatever. But one good indicator is whether you have dreams. So when you have that deep REM sleep, you'll dream. And I hadn't had a vivid dream in quite a while prior to that. Well, in my dream, I was meeting my wife's parents, but they were Indian. My wife's not Indian. I was on some lake. It was just so weird. But then I woke up. I was like, God, I must have really slept well because I had 3 dreams and I remember all of them. And I'm just like, this stuff's great, you know. So yeah. And then there's epitalon, help with your brain elasticity. So this helps your This helps with brain health. And you take these together. You got dihexos and nootropic, so it helps for synapse in your brain, so your brain works better. But yeah, there's this whole list of peptides that do all do different things just based on your own personal needs and physiology. You can plug into these things and just help you feel better.
Yeah, such like amazing things and lots of learnings here. I
Yeah,
have to put a plan in place to work on my peptides and then creatine. I learned, even though I'm taking it, I learned lots about like this cognitive awareness and so many things that really just getting you in front of the audience will help resonate or identify, okay, probably we are all aging, but what's the quality and how are we proactively taking steps on being or becoming our best self, feeling well too, because it's not looking well, as you say, right? Like if you see like there's body fat, how are your organs in the inside? So totally a wake up call for taking action, for looking our best and feeling our best. So this has been really great to
yeah,
hear, to know how you take care of your patients, the specific plan in place, and there's lots of results and goals that will be met through this.
right. So I'll tell you a quick story. So 3.5 years ago, I had a hemorrhagic stroke. So I had a really rough day. I had a marketing guy take me for some money, ended up doing a scanner. He tried to market anything. It's just a really nebulous space. Everyone over promises, under delivers for the most part. Um, I tried to get blood earlier that day, and it turned me away because my blood pressure was too high. So I had a blood pressure issue, and I knew about it. I just didn't do anything about it until that day. I went and got blood pressure meds. So I went and got the blood pressure meds, went home. In my infinite wisdom, I decided to pour myself a nice whiskey and coke. I wasn't quite as health minded at the time, so I made some major changes in my life. Um, so I took my blood pressure meds, had a drink, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, it felt like someone shot me in the head. Like the pain was so intense. I heard something pop. I was just like, I didn't know what it was. I knew it was really bad, so I tried to drive myself to the hospital. Because I'm driving, and apparently you shouldn't drive while you're having a stroke. It's probably not a good idea. I didn't know. So I wrecked my car. My stepsister, I call her. She comes picks me up, go to the hospital. They're like, we got to medevac you downtown. Like it's pretty serious. And I'm like, well, I've got my sister with me. How far is it? And it's a 10-15 minute drive. I'll just have her drive me down. They're like, well, we got a helicopter pulling around, and if you don't get in that helicopter, you're probably going to die. And I was like, well, I prefer not to have a $50,000 cab ride, but if it's like that, then pull around the chopper. Let's go, right? So they put me in a gurney. I fly in. I remember getting there. It was my girlfriend at the time. I called her, called my mom. They both showed up, and they put me down for emergency surgery. So I wake up, and unbeknownst to myself, they put a drain in my head. I had a brain bleed, basically. I pulled it out,
Mm.
and I don't remember doing this. So then I wake up again. They put me back down to reinstall it. Well, now I'm in handcuffs, ankles, cuff. I got catheter in. The nurse is over me speaking, but she has an Eastern European accent. So my head immediately makes this whole backstory up that I've been kidnapped because I had no idea where I was at. I'm hyperventilating. I think I'm being organ harvested. So I'm just screaming at these poor nurses. They come out, they hit me with a tranquilizer, they roll me back to ICU. And I remember it was all very much like a dream, looking around, and I still didn't believe I was in the hospital. I'm arguing with my girlfriend, who's not my wife. She's telling me I'm in the hospital. I'm like, I'm not. I'm in my basement. And she's like, your house doesn't have a basement. I'm like, and I thought I was in another country. My head was just all over. The Ukraine-Russia thing was going on at the time. I thought for some reason I was in Russia. I don't know. I just lost. So I see why these GIs who have traumatic head injuries end up waking up shooting people, because you literally have no idea of where you're at, how you got there. Um, anyway, so I'm in the hospital for, I was in ICU for 2 weeks. I was on 17 different blood pressure medications. They wouldn't let me have anything to drink because I had diabetes insipidus. So I was peeing out 3 times what I was taking in. So I was severely dehydrated. So now I'm double ported and I'm on all these painkillers, meds, and I can't eat because I just, I don't know, painkillers. It just wasn't hungry. Um, so I'm not eating, not drinking, and now I'm in this hypertension center, which they've got me plugged into 100 different things, and all I hear is beep, 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 all night long. So I didn't sleep much for 3 weeks. I didn't eat, and I didn't drink water for 3 weeks. But what does that do to you? It makes you really appreciate eating, sleeping, and drinking water. And I also didn't, number two, didn't use a bathroom for 3 weeks. So I come home, they let me go, finally, get out of there. I remember being in the bathroom, laughing and crying at the same time, like a crazy person. I was so happy to be using the bathroom, but it was so painful at the same time because I was severely dehydrated and I hadn't done it in 3 weeks. so,
Wow.
so I just went back and, sitting there, I just started I was just praying and just being so thankful for the smallest of things. And then when I left, I was like, I'm making some changes, and I'm not going to be back here again. It's really hard to be in that position, but it's even harder to watch your family around you kind of suffer with you. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. Go through
So
that
we're
with you.
left with the different sense of um, faith in a higher power, different sense of appreciation for what I did have good in my life, because I didn't know if I'd be able to work again. I didn't know, so I kind of felt like I lost everything. I lost my health, financially. I didn't know what I was going to do exactly. Um, but by the time I pulled out of it and I started getting everything back, I really made some powerful changes. And also, I put on an event for the NFL Alumni Association. So I had Dick Butkus, who's a you know Hall of Fame football player. We gave him a lifetime achievement award. He passed away like 6 months after, so that was pretty cool. But I also had doctors come in from all over the world, and one brought a hyperbaric oxygen chamber. So I learned about hyperbaric. So I ended up inheriting a hyperbaric oxygen chamber for about a year. And I don't know, you know anything about hyperbarics
No.
at all? So you're in a shell or enclosure where they put additional atmospheric pressure in the chamber, so it slowly gets more and more pressure, but that shrinks the oxygen. So every molecule is shrinking because of the pressure. So now you can take in straight oxygen while you're under pressure. You get 5 to 10 times the amount of oxygen in the bloodstream, which can now break the blood-brain barrier. So that oxygen heals your brain, heals your body, um, and then the, the pressure will push that oxygen out to your outer extremities. So it's great for diabetic patients. So I had a friend who was dying of diabetes, already had a couple of fingers and toes cut off, and he was on his way out. Basically, his dad died of the same thing. I had him over for my place for like 3 weeks. I put him in twice a day, and he had his left foot was completely red and pink, and he was starting to lose. It was starting to have to get gangrene on the edges. So that
Mm-hmm.
went from bright red to a light pink, and then he had a 3-inch sore on his other foot that now had the 3 centimeters that was just growing, that now had shrunk to one. He got to keep his other foot as well. So he was about to lose all his little pinkies, little piglets, fingers and toes, and now he's on metformin and doing great. And he got his A1C down. But so what I've learned with the hyperbarics is they pair really well um, with grounding and red lights. So if you and it's the things you can actually do at home. is you can buy an oxygen condenser, which you can get for $1,000. You can get a strong grounding mat. You got these Beamers, and it's got these other brands for anywhere from, you can get one cheap for a couple $100, but the really good ones are $1,000, $1,500. But if you combine the red lights, the hyperbarics, and the grounding, they call it the superhuman protocol. So it does this monster revitalization of your body. So like every night I sleep on a grounding mat, I the red lights, but I've got this whole system set up in my office now where you can come in, and if you do, and we found is if you do light exercise with the oxygen, if you bring your blood pressure up a little bit, it mimics the same process as the chamber. So you don't have to get in the machine. You can just take in the oxygen, do a little bit of exercise. If you do it directly after the PMF mat and then follow that up with the red lights, I mean, you got incredible results from people from doing that. And you probably put the whole system together for 4 or 5 grand in your house and have that and extend your life maybe 10, 20 years. Just by, again, the hyperbarics will also increase the length of those telomeres, so your cellular life expands. Does a lot for that detoxification piece we talked about, and also help your body create that ATP or that energy that you need to stay healthy. So these are all like just little takeaways, little things you can do to really have a long-term impact. And that's all we're trying to do here, especially when you get to a point where you're literally on your deathbed and you pull yourself out, heal yourself. And I use a lot of peptides to heal myself. So again, I've got a story to tell, I've got a testimony, but also I can educate people and kind of dissect what you do on a daily basis. And what you talked about earlier was stackable habits, like little corrections we can make. And those just add up over time. So it might be just to start off by, you just try to set a bedtime and get the light in the morning. Let's start there. Maybe add some supplements and get some exercise in. And then we start to detox a little bit. So over time, all those things build up. And next thing you know, you might, and how old are you, Lilia, if you don't mind if I ask?
39. 39.
See,
So
look,
getting
your
close
face is
to the
slick, your
40.
skin looks great for 39. You're obviously taking care of yourself. But some
Thank
people at 39 don't look like you. And there's a reason for that. Some of it's just genetics. We age at different speeds, but a lot of it are those habits that we employ daily. And you're eating clean, you're exercising, you're trying to get sleep. Now we add a little bit of detoxification to your routine, maybe get you in the sauna,
Exactly.
get that perfect aminos. So now you can continue your intermittent fasting, which is really good for you. And you can start to either stay where you're at age-wise. So you don't want your chronological age to be 39, but your metabolic age and your interior age is 59. And you see that a lot, especially with women, because they don't a lot of times do a great job of maintaining muscle mass. So your body doesn't process vitamins, minerals, and nutrients as well as it could. So these are all, again, just little things we can do to stay in front of the game. Look better,
Yeah,
feel
that's
better, and if you look and feel better, guess what? You're in a better mood. Oddly.
yes, those things that you do for yourself that will make you feel better, you will become a better person overall as well with your loved ones and others around you. So I do agree with you totally. And those stories you shared, the quick things or this system you created to do enhancements to daily life, to aging, to lots of things that you touched upon are really great insights that I believe for anyone listening to us, this educational portion will create a big role into changing lives, into changing how we perform, how we feel better, how we age, no matter where we're at. If someone is 20 right now, 40, 60, whatever, there's always things that we can proactively do, and the earlier, the better, for sure.
Right. Yeah. And also pray a little bit, you know. And that's something else we do here is we pray for our patients.
Yes,
So you add
amazing.
that, there's a lot of things you can do. And
Yes.
there's a lot going on in this world we can't see or hear. So we gotta
But
keep our
yeah.
relationship good with ourselves, with our family, but also with the big guy.
Yeah, agreed on that. And this is something each and every one of us have control on our bodies and how we want to feel, how we want to look. So
Right.
we don't really depend on what's happening around the world. So it's a wake up call that if there's something we can do for ourselves that will help our others in the world, because if we're a better human being, we feel better, then
Right.
we'll do better things as well. So thanks, Jim. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, it's great to meet you and have the conversation. And let me know if you have any questions on any of this stuff. And if anybody else have any questions, you can call us at 602-636-5000 or visit the website, endlessvitality.com.
Perfect. And below we'll be sharing all this information. So
Awesome.
anyone interested will be able to follow you, to go to your website. I totally advise to take a look. There's lots of great insights, information, and then you can book a consultation so you can discuss a great plan for yourself.
Awesome.
Thanks for
Thank
your
you.
time, Jim. I
Appreciate
appreciate
it.
it. Have
You
a
got
great
it.
day.
Anytime. Thank you.
Bye.